are like 5% of what they were a year ago, less than 5%. So now they're coming in by land.
Breaking tonight, federal agents have exposed a massive drug trafficking operation hidden inside one of America's busiest airports.
17 a.m., Miami, Florida. The city was dark. Rain from the overnight storm still pooled on the tarmac at Miami International Airport. Inside Terminal 3, security cameras blinked red in empty corridors. Most of America was asleep, but federal agents were already moving. Black Chevy Suburbans rolled through 3 restricted gates simultaneously. No lights and no sirens. Doors opened in perfect coordination. FBI tactical units poured out wearing body armor marked in bold white letters. Behind them came DHS, then D, then ICE. More than 1196 Somali nationals had been secretly embedded into U.S. infrastructure. Over 5.5 tons of cocaine and fentanyl had moved through American neighborhoods in just 18 months. Millions in cash, military-grade weapons, shell companies designed to look legitimate. And at the center of it all was one man, a deputy executive director. Trusted, credentialed, untouchable.
Until tonight.
If you want to see how deep this corruption goes, hit like now so more people learn the truth. Agents moved through the cargo administration wing like a surgical team. Boots echoed off polished floors, radios crackled with coordinated clearances. Within 39 seconds, the deputy director's office complex was surrounded. No warning knock. A breaching tool slammed into the reinforced door. Once, twice, once, twice. The frame splintered, the lock gave way. Agents flooded inside with rifles raised, sweeping corners, securing windows. The office was empty, but it wasn't clean. Behind a row of filing cabinets marked Operations Oversight, agents found something that changed everything. A steel panel. Concealed flush with the wall, one agent pulled. It didn't move. Another struck it with a pry bar. The panel buckled. What lay behind it froze the entire team. A hidden passageway leading down. This wasn't storage. This wasn't a maintenance closet. This was infrastructure built to hide something the public was never meant to see. One agent descended first, flashlight cutting through darkness. The air was cool, the walls were concrete, and at the bottom of the stairs was a steel door with an electronic keypad. It had been used recently. The breach team forced it open. What they found inside left no room for doubt. A command center, fully operational, buried beneath one of the busiest international airports in the United States. Type yes below if you're ready to see what federal investigators uncovered next. Inside, the room was organized with precision. On one wall, a digital map displayed trafficking routes spanning 12 U.S. states: Florida, Georgia, Texas, Illinois, New York, California, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arizona, Nevada. Each route was color-coded. Each city had a timestamp. Each corridor showed projected volume. On a steel table sat vacuum-sealed bricks. 1.2 metric tons of nearly pure cocaine and fentanyl, packaged, labeled, ready for distribution. In the corner, 5 reinforced safes. Agents pried them open one by one. Inside was $6.83 million in bundled cash. 20s, 50s, hundreds. Wrapped in bank-grade plastic, and against the far wall, 7 loaded firearms. Beretta 92 FS pistols, R-15 rifles, positioned for immediate defense. This was not a smuggling stash. This was an operations hub embedded inside a U.S. international airport. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Quote, fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Evidence bags were deployed. Forensic photographers documented every inch. But what stunned the lead investigator most wasn't the drugs or the money. It was the laptop, still powered on, screen unlocked, a spreadsheet open across 2 monitors showing real-time shipment tracking, departure times, arrival confirmations, distribution nodes across the eastern seaboard, updated 47 minutes ago. One column was labeled weekly revenue target. The number next to it made veteran agents pause. $4.02 million. This wasn't a one-time operation. This was a business, running like clockwork. 4 years. Comment exposed if this shocks you. The man at the center of this network was Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah, 47 years old, Somali-born, American credentialed, Deputy Executive Director of Airport Operations at Miami International. On paper, his record was flawless. No disciplinary actions, no audit red flags, no complaints. He had directly overseen more than 180 high-priority flights, including sensitive U.S. military and diplomatic cargo. Not a single incident ever reported. Inside the airport authority, he was known by one nickname: the man who never makes mistakes. That reputation was not an accident. It was cover. For more than 6 years, Farah had quietly transformed Miami International Airport into a protected transit hub for cartel operations. Using falsified immigration documents and fraudulent employment records, he facilitated the entry of at least 1196 Somali nationals into the United States. On paper, they were maintenance contractors, cargo handlers, security assistants. In reality, they were vetted couriers. All of it was executed through 24 shell companies, created solely to mask the operation. From there, the pipeline expanded. Cocaine and fentanyl supplied by Sinaloa-linked maritime networks arrived off the Florida coast aboard fishing vessels and private boats. The drugs were brought ashore. Cleared under Farah's authorization codes, temporarily stored inside airport-controlled cargo facilities, zones exempt from routine customs inspection. Once inside, Farah's network redistributed shipments through commercial freight, private aviation, and overland transport. Federal analysts later confirmed the scale. Approximately 5.5 tons of cocaine and fentanyl moved annually. Estimated black market value, $220 million per year. Shipments cleared in as little as 11 minutes. Procedures that normally take hours were bypassed entirely. And the damage was already spreading. Drug-related deaths in South Florida increased by 190% over 4 years. Forced prostitution cases surged 72% since the start of the year. But what stunned investigators most was Farah's role. He wasn't paid to look the other way. He designed the system. If you want the full truth, hit like so this reaches more people. The investigation began 8 months earlier, not with a tip, not with surveillance, with a body. 22-year-old Aaliyah Grant was found unresponsive in a Miami Beach hotel room on March 14th. Paramedics worked for 19 minutes. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Toxicology revealed fentanyl concentrations 11 times the lethal dose. The batch was unusually pure. Lab analysis showed chemical markers traced to a specific supply chain, one that kept appearing across South Florida: overdose cases. Analysts noticed the pattern. Same markers, same distribution windows, same geographic clusters. All roads led back to shipments cleared through Miami International Airport. But airport operations are complex. Thousands of shipments daily, dozens of agencies, overlapping jurisdictions. Finding the entry point required months of work. Agents began cross-referencing clearance timestamps with known distribution spikes. They mapped badge access logs against suspicious cargo releases. They analyzed personnel records for anomalies. One name appeared 847 times in flagged incidents: Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah. At first, investigators assumed it was coincidence. He was a senior official. His signature appeared on hundreds of documents daily, but the pattern was too consistent. Every major shipment flagged by D-Intelligence had passed through a clearance window authorized by Farah. Every high-purity batch traced back to cargo released under his codes. The probability wasn't random. It was systematic. On September 3rd, federal prosecutors secured a sealed warrant. Surveillance was authorized. Financial records were subpoenaed.
Digital communications were monitored.
What they uncovered was beyond initial suspicions. The money returned to Farah's shell companies as investment capital and performance bonuses, then dispersed to pay bribes, logistics costs, armed security. One spreadsheet hidden inside a folder labeled Q3 Ops listed a recurring line item: weekly net $4.02 million. Federal accountants concluded the network was generating over $218 million annually in illicit revenue. The corruption ledger went deeper. Encrypted chat logs revealed 21 compromised local officials receiving monthly payments, ranging from $6,000 to $18,000 in exchange for expedited permits. Zoning blind spots, advance notice of inspections. Airport-issued access badges were quietly reassigned to cooperative staff. Sensitive cargo moved through green lanes with minimal oversight. Clearance times dropped from hours to as little as 9 minutes. What stunned investigators most was Farah's role as architect. He designed redundancies, backup accounts, rotating intermediaries. If one bank froze, another activated. If one casino tightened controls, funds shifted overnight. The system behaved like a multinational corporation, audited, optimized, and resilient under pressure. One financial analyst described it simply, this wasn't a game, this was governance. Hit like if you believe this corruption must be stopped. While financial analysts dismantled the laundering structure, another federal team was assigned a grimmer task. Documenting the damage already done, emergency medical records across South Florida revealed a staggering pattern. Over the previous 4 years, overdose calls had surged 292%. The sharpest spikes traced directly to corridors serviced by shipments cleared under Farah's authority. In Miami-Dade County alone, paramedics logged an average of 1 overdose every 38 minutes during peak distribution cycles. Toxicology reports showed fentanyl concentrations up to 5 times stronger than historical averages. Formulations designed not just to sell, but to dominate markets. The pricing explained why. Investigators confirmed Farah's network deliberately dumped supply at 30 to 45% below prevailing street prices. Dealers interviewed after their arrest admitted they had never seen consistency like it. Arrived weekly, sometimes daily, without disruption. One distributor described it bluntly. If Miami said it was coming, it came. That reliability collapsed competitors and accelerated addiction across entire neighborhoods. The ripple reached schools across 3 counties. School districts reported a 67% increase in drug-related incidents among students within a single academic year. Guidance counselors described counterfeit pills circulating as casually as candy. Several middle schools reported emergency hospitalizations linked to fentanyl exposure. Lab analysis traced the chemical signatures back to batches scheduled through Miami International Airport clearance windows, controlled by Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah. Communities along transportation routes felt the pressure next. Motels, short-term rentals. Roadside businesses near airport exits became temporary logistics points. Surveillance footage showed nightly traffic spikes, vehicles staying minutes, not hours. Cash transactions replaced cards. Property managers later admitted they mistook the activity for seasonal tourism. In reality, they were witnessing a rolling distribution chain. Local law enforcement was overwhelmed. Sheriff's offices across multiple counties reported record highs in violent disputes, weapons recoveries, thefts, all consistent with cartel-driven saturation. Patrol units responded to symptoms without ever seeing the source. The center of gravity remained untouched until it was too late. Type stop below if you want operations like this exposed faster. The most disturbing findings involved those least able to resist. Court records and interview transcripts revealed individuals recently released from rehabilitation programs were being systematically recruited. Many lacked housing, employment, support. Farah's network exploited that vulnerability, using them as couriers and cash runners. Investigators identified at least 168 individuals absorbed this way over 2 years. Payment often came not in cash, but in product, fueling relapse, dependency, silence. Healthcare systems felt the strain as well. Federal analysts estimated the region had already absorbed over $510 million in combined emergency response, treatment, law enforcement costs, tied directly to the distribution pipeline Farah controlled. Hospital administrators described wards operating beyond capacity during surge weeks. These outreach programs were unable to keep pace. When analysts compiled the totals, the scope became unavoidable. More than 3.1 million potential doses were intercepted during the final interdiction window. 27 distinct communities showed indicators of cartel-style market control. Entire supply chains were mapped back to a single clearance authority. This was no longer a case of corruption hidden in paperwork. It was the story of how a single official, armed with credentials and trust, had reshaped the social landscape of an entire region. By manipulating infrastructure meant to protect the public, Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah transformed Miami International Airport into a launch point and neighborhoods into endpoints. The drugs moved quietly. The damage spread loudly. The damage spread. One victim's mother testified before a closed congressional hearing weeks later. Her daughter was 19, honor student, athlete, future bright. She took what she thought was a prescription pill at a party. She never woke up. The batch was traced to a shipment that cleared Miami International on a Tuesday afternoon. Authorization code, Farah's. Clearance time, 11 minutes. Share this video so more families don't have to suffer. As the sun rose over South Florida, federal command began the final phase, stitching every fragment of evidence into a single undeniable picture. Narcotic seizures, financial ledgers, badge logs, access records, encrypted chats. When merged, they told one story with brutal clarity. This was not a loose conspiracy. It was a centralized system engineered and controlled by one man, Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah. By mid-morning, analysts confirmed Farah's authority appeared on 92% of expedited clearances flagged during the previous 18 months. His digital signature overrode inspection protocols 1147 times, reducing standard screening windows from hours to as little as 8 minutes. Each override correlated with a shipment later tied to cartel distribution. The math was merciless. 9:26 a.m., agents located Farah in a leased waterfront condominium less than 12 miles from the airport. Surveillance showed he had been awake all night, monitoring encrypted channels until they went dark, one by one. When the arrest team approached, there was no resistance, no attempt to flee. He opened the door himself. Inside, agents recovered 2 phones, still warm to the touch. A laptop running a mirrored logistics dashboard, and a handwritten notebook listing contingency routes and code rotations. One page was marked simply, Holiday Surge plus 60%. Investigators concluded Farah had plans to accelerate distribution during peak travel weeks. Leveraging increased airport traffic to mask volume. Had the network not been stopped, analysts estimated an additional 1.9 tons of fentanyl and cocaine would have moved within 30 days. Back at command, the scale crystallized. Across Florida and beyond, 78 arrests were confirmed within 24 hours. Logistics coordinators, armed enforcers, money couriers, facilitators, 51 access badges were deactivated. $121 million in cash, crypto, and assets were frozen or seized. 31 properties linked to shell companies entered forfeiture proceedings. The personnel map stunned even veteran investigators. Farah had placed loyal intermediaries at choke points, cargo scheduling, and maintenance rosters, night shift security, ensuring continuity even if a node failed. Redundancies were built into everything. If one warehouse closed, another activated. If one courier disappeared, 2 backups stepped in. The system behaved less like a gang and more like a logistics firm under stress testing. Then came the confirmations from outside Florida. Partner agencies reported linked seizures in 6 additional states within 48 hours. Shipments already in motion when the strike began. Combined totals pushed the interdicted volume beyond 6.4 tons. Analysts revised projections upward. The network's annual throughput likely exceeded $240 million in street value, with margins protected by Farah's clearance authority and laundering architecture. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in this case. Interviews followed. Some cooperated quickly, others said nothing, but the documents spoke louder than any confession. Time-stamped approvals. Badge swipes at odd hours. Casino receipts synchronized with clearance overrides. A single spreadsheet recovered from Farah's laptop listed weekly performance metrics like a corporate report. On-time release, 98%. Distribution efficiency, 94%. Revenue conversion, $4.18 m weekly average. There was no ambiguity left. What federal teams dismantled was not merely a pipeline, it was governance. A shadow administration embedded within public infrastructure, converting trust into throughput, authority into profit. The airport had not been compromised by force. It had been commandeered by procedure. As Farah was transported to federal holding, investigators noted the final irony. For years, he had sold himself as a guardian of order, precise, disciplined, indispensable, and in a sense, he was. The system worked because he made it work. But systems leave trails. By the end of the day, Miami International Airport resumed normal operations under emergency oversight. Clearance protocols were rewritten, access hierarchies were collapsed, Independent audits were ordered across every department Farah touched. The gateway was closed. At most, the damage could not be undone overnight, but the engine had been shut down. And for the first time in years, the routes Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah built were no longer moving forward, only backward toward courtrooms, indictments, and a reckoning measured not in shipments, but in sentences. Comment accountability below if you believe justice must be served. By the time Federal Command compiled the final operational brief, one conclusion stood above every chart and arrest report. This case was never about drugs alone. It was about how unchecked authority can quietly reorganize an entire system from the inside out. At the center of that system stood Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah, Deputy Director of Operations at Miami International Airport. When analysts overlaid evidence streams, the structure became clear. More than 94% of compromised shipments passed through 3 clearance pathways authorized by Farah's credentials. These pathways aligned with recurring overnight windows when staffing was thin.
When oversight was minimal, what appeared routine was deliberate precision.
The personnel layer proved alarming. Investigators confirmed Farah influenced hiring, shift placement, badge-level access for at least 53 airport employees across 6 departments. Some were willing participants. Others unknowingly shielded contraband by following altered procedures. Farah referred to these roles as stabilizers, positions designed to preserve continuity under scrutiny. Beyond the airport, the network expanded outward in rings. The first involved local officials who created permitting delays and inspection blind spots. The second included private sector facilitators, warehouse lessors, logistics brokers, aviation vendors who asked no questions as long as payments arrived. A third ring consisted of shell companies and nominee accounts designed to obscure ownership. Each layer insulated the next. The scale was staggering. Over a 5-year period, the network moved more than 28 tons of narcotics through U.S. infrastructure, generating over $1.01 billion in street-level value. Even after laundering costs and losses, net profit exceeded $420 million. What made the operation especially dangerous was its invisibility. There were no violent takeovers, no dramatic seizures, control advanced through memos, approvals, policy adjustments that appeared legitimate, a clearance shortened, an inspection deferred, a trusted signature applied at the right moment. Over time, these changes accumulated into control. Investigators called it procedural capture. The impact extended beyond Florida. As federal partners reviewed Farah's methods, red flags appeared at transportation hubs nationwide. Emergency audits were launched. Clearance protocols were frozen. Independent oversight teams were deployed. For prosecutors, the challenge was not proving guilt, but conveying scale. Timelines measured years, not days. Charts aligned clearance overrides with overdose spikes and shipment arrivals. Each line told the same story. This was not negligence, this was orchestration. As Farah awaited trial, cooperation agreements continued to unravel the network. Asset seizures mounted. Sentencing projections climbed. There was no celebration, only vigilance, because the final truth was clear. The most dangerous criminal enterprises do not announce themselves with violence. They look like order, they wear credentials, they sign documents, and they operate unseen. Share this story before it gets buried. South Florida did not collapse overnight. Miami did not fall to chaos with sirens and gunfire. What this investigation revealed was far more disturbing. How a system can be hollowed out quietly when authority is abused behind closed doors. For years, Abdi Rahman Yusuf Farah did not use violence. He used trust, procedures, signatures no one questioned. One clearance at a time, he turned a critical U.S. transportation hub into a launch point for drugs and money. This case is not about one man alone. It is about vulnerability. Corruption does not always look criminal. Sometimes it carries a title, a badge, and a flawless audit record. Which is exactly why it spread so fast. Millions of doses were already moving. Communities were already paying the price. Long before the first door was breached. Federal agents stopped this network just in time. But the warning goes far beyond Miami. Every system built on trust is only as strong as the oversight protecting it. And the real question now is simple. How many others are still operating unseen? If you believe justice is worth fighting for, hit like now. Comment Stop Corruption if you want more investigations like this exposed. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this story. Share this video across every platform, because the fight against corruption doesn't end here. This is only the beginning.